excited. Like our vision completely aligned with where the technology was going. And so we quickly launched Leo AR as fast as we could in like 2018.
Wow.
Yeah. So it had a weird kind of start, but it's definitely, we try to augment text through helping artists and building an artist marketplace. And then Leo AR, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to create an artist marketplace for AR 3D object designers to submit their objects and sell directly to consumers. So it's actually the same playbook as the 2D stickers, but now the 3D world is just it's a way bigger market.
So for listeners that might not know a lot about AR, could you give some examples, like if they were one of your customers, how they would use Leo AR and any future thought about how your product might be developed in the future and how they might use it and apply it in their everyday life?
Yeah. So today, Leo is one of the easiest places to create an AR video. You basically open the app and it instantly opens a category and the camera. And you tap an object and you instantly see the object in front of you. You can add as many objects as you want. You can add 1,000, you can add 100, or just keep one. And you can do a whole scene. You can move around the room and have a tree in one place, a flamingo in the other, and a lion in the other corner. So you can quickly record it and share it cross-platform. So it's literally one of the easiest ways to create an AR video that even a 3-year-old can create a scene. And the way that I picture this going, which obviously today it's very simple way because AR is so new for people, right? Like a lot of people try our app and they're like, "Oh my God, I didn't know my phone can have a 3D object," and they get really excited, both the parents and the kids. It's a very like family oriented app. So I get to really hear people's first impressions of, when they first see 3D objects, and it's pretty magical for everyone. And then where I see this is going is interesting. Obviously, it's going to move from mobile and iPad into glass. I think, Google and Apple are working on their glasses because to be hands-free and kind of immersed in this digital layer on the existing world is kind of the epitome of where we're going with AR. Because right now it feels very much like a window and a portal. And, I think we've become quickly adjusted to this because of COVID and the screens and Zoom and Skype, how we're all used to communicating through a box, which has been pretty interesting. But the future will be hands-free in a glass. And I imagine kind of the mainstream user, I think Leo AR is something that's going to move into like the Amazon of AR. So I picture you kind of walk into your office and you go to Leo and you pick a design that you want in your office to work in. So you'll have your glass on, you'll walk into your office and you're like, I want to have this scene of the beach in front of me behind my desk. And so then you like instantly buy it through Leo and you have this automatic environment surrounding you. Or you're going into like your bedroom and you want to have yoga, you'll have this like scene of the mountains and candles that change colors every 5 seconds.
It's kind of like that Zoom virtual background come to life, right?
Yeah. Just in like 3D version and in your actual environment. Because I think like you really believe what you see. Like the sight is such a strong sense of the 5 senses. So, maybe there will be sounds and stuff. I don't know how that will work because I do think eventually there will be sounds and smells somehow to make it realistic.
Right.
That comes along with more science.
And did you, so I founded a tech company several years ago, and I didn't personally have a tech background. And for myself, I found it challenging when it came to product management and overseeing teams that were actually, building the product because I was not a software engineer per se. And I'm just curious, I know you had mentioned to me when we first met that you also didn't have a tech background. Did you find that there were any hardships involved with that in launching your business or not so?
Because this is my second company, I obviously find it less difficult to do it because I already had kind of an existing team that I've been working with for a long time. And kind of my head of engineering is obviously doing all the management for the engineers. And I do most of the high level stuff, including like pitching and BD and vision and also product. But he does all the management. Like I don't know how to build a company without either a CTO or a head of engineering because that's like you said, it's so difficult to manage the product. And I did everything. Like I've tried working with third party outsourcing companies that help you to kind of manage the engineers, and that never worked out. So I think the key is really finding your CTO or head of engineering.
Yeah, amen to that. So if
Yeah.
you're out there and you want to build a tech company, make sure one of your co-founders is a hardcore tech person.
Yeah.
That'll be
For
a lot
sure.
easier. So let's talk about some of your hacks, because I thought that some of the things that you had shared with me were so interesting. So tell us what would be some of the top 3 hacks you would recommend to founders who are starting out and maybe like you are in San Francisco, are in need of extra runway. I mean, what would you suggest?
Yeah. So one of the things I think is really important to teach aspiring entrepreneurs is to start early. And start early means reach out to investors as soon as you can. I think for a lot of entrepreneurs that are trying to make it, especially for women, they always they're so realistic that they're like, okay, when I launch my product, then I'll go out and fundraise. Or when I build this, I'll go out and fundraise. Or when I find my designer or find my co-founder, I'll go out and do it. But really, I say as early as possible, go out and talk to people. You really need to build the network and the community, even during COVID times. And don't rely on like, I have to have a live product or whatever. Like always go out with a deck. It could be 5 pages, 10 pages on Keynote with even some like sketches or designs of what you're planning to build, because the first check you bring in is always because of you as a founder. It's not because of your product. So
Right.
I always say as early on as possible, go out, talk to people, get mentors, get advisors, find your team, but also meet with investors, because those investors you meet will start to see your progress. And usually the first check you get in is because of the progress you've made.
Mm.
And so if they saw you and you were like laughable, you only had a deck, you didn't even have a product, you have no co-founder, but at least they'll remember you when you come back 6 months later and you have a co-founder and you're building an advisory board. You know, they'll remember like, oh, she's done a lot in 6 months. She has a team. She's raised a little money. Like, I think that's like one big hack is start as early as possible.
Yeah, and I wanted to just add to that for listeners that you can think about it almost as informational interviews when on the corporate side, where oftentimes you're looking to get a job, but maybe you're not ready to switch and start looking, but you want to educate yourself about a particular company or a particular field, and you ask people to set you up with interviews, and you're not in the room literally asking for a job, you're asking questions. And I do agree with you that I think the sooner you start to socialize the idea of your product, your company, and you with the community, the better. It's just if you actually go out and do a hardcore pitch and you don't have the metrics, you have to make sure that you know who you're pitching to and whether or not it's a proper fit at that stage.
Yeah.
So now take us on that journey. So did you find that it was really a big step forward for you to start early and start making these connections early on before you were even building your product?
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, I had no background in entrepreneurship as far as like I hadn't done any accelerators, and my whole life I'd been trained to be very humble. So like I never told people I went to Yale. I never told people I was like junior Olympic volleyball athlete, and then I did like crazy master piano lessons, like nothing. My dad was always so humble too. So like we were all trained like not to talk about it and just kind of work as much as you can. Mm-hmm. And so I think that really was tough for me when I first started. I had to learn how to pitch myself. I literally took probably an entire 30 days to learn how to pitch myself without turning red, without getting super uncomfortable. Like it was like a very hard step to make.
Wow.
So I really had to like practice. I just took a ton of videos in my iPhone of myself, pitching the product, and not relying on like a physical real app or a website to kind of help me draw, like, build the picture around what I wanted to build. So, I took a lot of practice, and obviously I'm not from Silicon Valley and I didn't have a Stanford network. So obviously I had to build it from scratch. And I did a lot what you just said. Like I reached out on LinkedIn and asked for coffee dates. Like I'm like to try to get information from people, like you're an amazing entrepreneur. How did you get started? And you meet other entrepreneurs that are willing to open up their connections. And so it's a mix. It's not just going after VCs, it's meeting other entrepreneurs who are willing to help you in the space.
Yeah, that's a really great piece of advice. We are unfortunately almost out of time. I'm wondering, is there one last little jewel you want to throw out there?
Oh, I have two more really
quickly.
Quickly. I always, go. If there's any women that, get pregnant and stuff in the process, I always say it's a pretty safe bet to enter an accelerator. I think accelerators beyond, even if you're a first-time founder, I always suggest joining an accelerator just to kind of get above the riffraff and get the little filter that you need. It's a great place when you're pregnant to kind of have the support and community for your co-founder while you're going through this process of delivering a baby. So that's my second hack. And then my third hack is hiring remote teams. I think it's when you're bootstrapped, it's a really great way to extend the lifeline of your business.
And that's what you've done with your tech team, I'm presuming?
Yes. I've been working remote since 2012.
And do you want to say what country you like to work with, or does it not matter?
Well, my co-founder was from Turkey, Istanbul, and I had done everything from hiring third parties to trying to recruit kids from Stanford and working on the campus. I did everything. And hiring remotely, you feel like the engineers are really excited to work with a Silicon Valley-based company, and they're super appreciative, and they're also a little bit more mature as far as, you can get someone that's 4 or 5 years out from college with experience in other countries.
Yes.
And I don't know, it's just a different vibe, but it's a bit more positive, and they're cheaper, and they're just as talented. You don't necessarily need to go to a 4-year base school to be an engineer these days.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So Dana, please share with us information about Leo AR before we sign off. So if people want to download your app, where would they go?
Sure. You can go to leoapp.com. We're also in the Apple App Store and Google Play Store under Leo AR.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again. This was great. I love your suggestions, and I'm sure our listeners did as well. So thank you again, and tune in next week for more startup hacks. We've got another great show that you won't want to miss on the secret female founder strategies that will save you time and money when building your business. This podcast is brought to you by We Global Studios, the first startup innovation studio and digital do-it-yourself startup platform for women entrepreneurs around the world. For more information on our guests, this podcast, and many other female founder programs, please visit weglobalstudios.com. I'm your host, Fernanda Carapina, and we will see you next week.